Hey guys, it's Sunday and it's a bit late for me, so I'm gonna be speedrunning this round of the weekly Nightmare Corridor and Cursed Realm Formation run through. Before we get started though, I do want to flex on you guys by showing you guys my new frame that I got last week for placing in the top 200 in the Nightmare Corridor, and I also got this sick ranking plate, and look how nice my profile looks. But that's enough flexing, let's get into the teams. So, the question is, I got into the top 200 in Nightmare Corridor last week, can I stay there? And the answer is probably not. I expect that I'll be booted out of the top 200 this week, but I'm currently at rank 159. And let me take a look at the teams. So the teams are very similar to last week. A few things have changed though, not with the heroes, but with the collection. So for this first team here, this is the same as the last week's team. If you don't have the Fox at level 18, you can use the Talisman in here. At a lower investment, right? Fox is really only good at level 15 and above, and for me it was best at 18 over the Talisman. One thing I changed from this team from the last time around is this Saphir collection is filled with insight now. So lots of insight on this helped me get another second shaved off on this team. Now for the next team, this is the Scarlet team, right? This is a pretty RNG heavy team. Before I start talking about this team, I do think I should I'm not going to speedrun it that hard. I'll just talk a little bit about some different variations of this team. So obviously, if you have Brutus built out further, he's good in this team. If you have Gabius built out, he's good in this team. If you have Demia available, she's good in this team. I use Liberta in here. If you have heroes like Anasta, Antandra, you can even use Yorin in here, the wilder speed guy, but you probably need him in another round. There's lots of different variations. The only thing you can't really replace is the awakened version of Saphir. However, last week in my comments, someone mentioned that they were actually using Joan of Arc instead of the awakened version of Saphir. So that is an option for you guys out there to test if that works out for you. Now, next team, this is the Scarlet team. For me, I'm using Damien, the Scarlet team, because otherwise, this team is very highly RNG dependent, excuse me. And Damia just lowers the variance for me. That allows me to hit sub 20 rounds much more frequently. But if you need Damia elsewhere, you can definitely use heroes like Rain in here. You can use heroes like Eugene in here. And if your Panda is not level 18, you can use the Panda at level 15, or you can use the Blade Ridge at level 15 and below. The Blade Ridge works fine at level 12 and such. And obviously you could use the Winged Lion in here. Those are all good things with Scarlet. Here are my collections. The only thing of note in my collection is actually the Scarlet collection, which has a lot of magic pierce. So maybe that makes a difference for the time, but I doubt it. Next up, here's the Trashia team, right? Nothing has changed in here. As per usual, I will note that you need the engraving 30 on Trashia for this team to work, otherwise Baden will not do any damage. The pet is this one, no matter the investment, and here are the collections. None of these are good. Well, actually, the Lavatune collection is pretty good, but the other ones are not that good. Next up, we have the Seal team, the Speed team, call it whatever you want. This is somewhat RNG dependent, this team. If you don't have Leica, you can use heroes like Mishka, you can use heroes like Naruko in here, Liberta in here, along with Lucilla. There are different things you can play around with in here. For me, this is the best variation, using the Rain variation in here, which is a kind of a cool variation. Otherwise, obviously, you can use like Naruko, and as I mentioned, Liberta in here as well. Next up, we have the collection, right? None of these collections are really of note. I do believe the Leica collection is pretty good, but honestly, it's an RNG heavy team. Sometimes it hits 40 seconds, sometimes it hits sub 20 as it did here with the RNG aspect, right, falling to my favor. I don't think collection matters that much in here. The main thing is just having the stars align and the RNG to hit. Next team, this is the Baden team. Now, last week there was a debuff in here that allowed us to run 3 Wilders for an improved Baden team, and that allowed me to take my overall kill time down a lot, but this debuff is no longer available, and thus the Baden team now is a lot slower, as you can see here, at 34 seconds. I actually got this down to 31 seconds, but I wasn't able to hit the 31-second variant along with the Scarlet and the other RNG teams. One thing to note is that you need to remember to put the SP effect on Solus in here, and another thing to note is nothing because none of the collections really matter, but these are the collections I use. This collection features a lot of attack, which is what Soulless scales on, so I guess that's something to note. Another thing you can try to do, maybe it works out for you, is swap the positioning between Hodgkin and Soulless, and for some people that yields more damage. For me, it did not. Last but not least, this is the debuff. Now, this debuff, or the debuff, this week is kind of wasted because this team is pretty much the exact same team as last week. You just ignore the debuff because this is, and probably will always be, an Athalia round. In here there are, I should mention, some different variations because lots of people don't have Lorsen at 9 furniture. So in here you can use heroes like Skrek, you could use heroes like, well, I already used Naruko, but you could use Orthros, you can use, what are some other options? I'm actually not, other than Skrek and Orthros, I'm not sure what else you could use in here. But I'm sure you could find something in the leaderboard. Here are the collections. As you can see, I forgot to put a collection on Lawson, but it really doesn't matter. One thing to note in here is probably that Athalia might need her SI 40. If you don't have her SI 40, actually one thing you can do is you can use Atheus over Lawson in here, and some people on Reddit told me that that's actually a really good option. If you don't have SI40 Athalia, you can use Atheus in here, and that helps with the survivability, but maybe your timing won't be as good. I haven't really tested it personally, but I heard that was a good option, so you can definitely check that out if you don't have the SI40 Athalia. But I would recommend SI40 Athalia at this point because it seems like this boss will stay for another 6 months, so it seems worthwhile. Alright, those were my my teams for the Nightmare Corridor. I expect to drop out of the top 200. Obviously, if I was in any other region, I wouldn't even be close to the top 200, but here's my time anyways. Now, let us head over to the Cursed Realm. Now, for this Cursed Realm, let's just go into my teams and I'll talk a bit about them. So for this first team here, you want to use Awakened version of Lucius. However, there are some notes to be had here. Now, first of all, the Awakened version of Lucius is the best variation. There are some things you can play around with here. For example, you can slot out Rosa and you can throw in Lucilla for a more expensive team. For me, that was not better. Here are the collections. Lucius wants lots of defense. I'm merking Lucius for this round. Usually I'm merking Baden for this round, and I do want to show you guys the Baden variation because, as you see, my Lucius did 12 billion. But with Baden, I was also able to get around 10 billion. So this is the Baden variation. If some of you guys are using Baden over Lucius, and in here you use Brutus along with Damon. It's an older variation of the team. And if you don't have the Spooter at level 15, and that goes for Lucius as well, you can use the cookie thing, the thing that rains cookies from the sky. That pet works at level 12 if you don't have this one at 15. And ideally, obviously, you would have this one at 18. Right, next team. This is the Belinda team. This is a pretty RNG heavy team for me anyways. Sometimes it hits like 15, sometimes it hits 23. You just have to do lots of retries, and yeah, I haven't really tested around with this team because I was actually able to build the best in slot team in here. Yeah, again, here are the collections. Nothing of note other than I guess my Chimera does have the +1 skill on this one, and I suppose my Damia, or not my Damia, my Belinda has a pretty good collection as well. But yeah, it's an RNG fest of a team, so be warned. Next team, here's a pretty stable team for once. This is the Sophia team. Yeah, I haven't seen any variations without Sophia, and basically you run Sophia with the Winged Lion in here, and Silas keeps Sophia alive, and she does all your damage, and then she dies out. And that's pretty much it for this team. Haven't tested anything out. Here are the collection. I have done no testing on variations of this team for this week. Next up, here I have done a bit of testing. This is the Wilder round, or the I guess it's the Soulless round, right? It's a pretty cheap round because most people have Soulless built. One thing you can do, and some people told me it was better, is using Lucilla over Tamras. For me, Tamras was pretty consistently much better than Lucilla, but you can try that out and maybe that's better for you. Obviously, we're taking advantage of the Talisman in here because every single enemy hero in here is a Hypogean hero, which means Talisman will help crowd controlling the enemy team. As you can see, they're not doing much damage. And then once they become crowd control immune, they one-shot your entire team. Collections. Yeah, I guess Tamras does have the +1 collection on the warrior one, which gives him a cheat death. Not sure if it makes any difference in the fight, but yeah, that is something that he does. Otherwise, everything else is pretty self-explanatory. All right, this is the Seal team. Now, for Seal team, obviously, there are so many variations. If you have Matria, if you have Gavius, if you have Matria, Gavius, Brutus, even the new Hypogean hero could be used in here. For me, I'm doing a dimensional team. Obviously, if you have Emilia, she can slot into here as well. Not a lot of people have Yennefer built out to this investment, but Emilia can work in here as well. You're basically just fidgeting around until you hit something. For me personally, that does around 10 billion was what I wanted to hit. Obviously, if you can make the best slot variations, there are better options. But yeah, Seal is the main damage dealer. Your team is just here to crowd control and obviously to stay alive, right? Here are the collections. Here there's actually just nothing noteworthy. But yeah, lots of variations in here. I even tried out Atheus. That was not successful, so I wouldn't recommend you guys try that out. Right, last up, this is the team where you actually have to do a bit of thinking and actually a bit of min-maxing, which is annoying. Luckily for me, I didn't have to, because last time I haven't changed my heroes in this team since last time, so I was just able to plug and play it. But there's a few things you should note in here. One thing you should note in here is that you want to remove Desira's boots. Removing Desira's boots makes it so that she has the lowest HP, which means that Liberta will link Desira, allowing Desira to ult more often. The goal of this team is just to stay alive for the entire duration of the battle and letting Trashia ramp, and then obviously Twins allows Trashia's attack stats to be linked with Liberta, who does all the damage, right? So the things that you want to make sure happens is that Desira is at the lowest, I think it's health, right? You want to make sure she's at the lowest health, so that Liberta can link her. Another thing that you could do to achieve this is you can start unequipping her. Like you could toss out some gear, or you could lower your support tree. For me, support tree was pretty high, but it worked out. But yeah, basically keep the team alive, right? Keep Twins and keep Damia alive. One thing that could help is the +2 effect, the skill +2 effect of the Mihira collection that gives a cheat death, right? That could definitely help, and obviously the Tassive Wings helps with survivability. But yeah, keep the team alive, make sure she has the lowest HP, and then it should be smooth sailing from there. But you do have to do a little bit of playing around with this team. So that was my Cursed Realm formation, and that was also my Nightmare Corridor formation, so I guess we're done with the video. One thing, I mean, again, it doesn't make sense to show it afterwards, but I guess here are my Treasure Scramble teams from the last round of Treasure Scramble, where I ended at top 61, which is nice. I was actually pretty close to ending in the top 50, which would be sick. Anyways, here are the teams. As you can see, as we go down, the teams get progressively worse, but the top teams here are pretty sick. I'm really happy about this first team, and I'm also really happy about this third team, and then we don't talk about the team 5, 6, and 7. Right, that's it for me this Sunday. I hope you guys had a fun time in the Abyssal Expedition. I don't think I'm leaking anything by showing you guys this, but currently our guild is in quite the predicament because we were actually just not able to kill the boss. We need, like, if we had one more player and not a spectator, we probably could have done it. But yeah, this was pretty tragic for our guild. But that's just how it ended up this time around. Still a pretty good fun time. Still annoying with the Belinda RNG in the Abyssal Expedition, but that's just how it is. Anyways, enough rambling for me, and I'll see you guys next Sunday.